usually what we've been doing lately.
Hmm.
But I want to amend that because I've had a richer sort of sequence of thoughts that followed on from that.
Okay,
Um,
now apparently we are live.
yeah.
Yes, I just got that
Hello,
message.
hello, live people. Hi out there. Yeah. So no, I think that's good. Yeah, Mark, pull up your YouTubey thing and see if you see us.
Okie dokie. I'm pulling up narrowband broadcasting. Hello,
There you go.
everybody. Let's see if we. And I see just the list of videos available, pretty much.
Huh.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just got a message that said,
Oh, because you're a subscriber.
yeah.
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 Okay.
I'm subscribed.
Well, did you check your email or was it a
Oh,
push message?
you're subscribed. I got a notification from my
Oh yeah,
phone
it's in
saying,
my notifications.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
31 seconds ago.
let me let me go to YouTube and see if we can.
Oh, and the tile is showing Kurt Vonnegut. That's
Yeah, that's. I
interesting.
just used our.
Oh, that's why. Oh, I see
Yeah.
it. Oh, there we are. Let me
Oh,
click
okay.
on that.
We got it all done. We got it dialed
Yeah,
in.
Yeah.
let's make as many infinite
There we
loops
go.
of us watching ourselves,
There we are.
as possible.
Hello.
Yeah, season 2, the infinite regress
Right,
season.
exactly. We'll just start
How
calling
many?
the show Hall of Mirrors.
The
Uh,
ultimate
Okay, well
rabbit hole. It circles back
that's
on
cool.
itself.
Okay, we are
Sweet.
recording. Everything's good there. Everything's good there. How do we want to approach this?
Damn it! I need
You know,
to redo. I forgot to turn on OBS.
okay,
Okay.
back out, come back in.
All right.
I'm streaming about 20 seconds behind actual time here
Yeah,
online.
that sounds like about the right amount
Yeah,
of
there we
loop
go. There
between
we
the
go.
satellites and the ground. Yeah.
Well, anyway, hi everybody out there.
Yes. Hi, all you people. I'm going to actually
Yeah.
put up a quick thing on Facebook saying that we're live.
Okay.
Uh,
Quiet on the set, please. My thing broke. Time to gorilla glue the clapboard.
I can't watch myself and watch myself at the same time. I'm afraid
What
that's
the hell?
not
The
good.
Yeah,
magnet
it's a
is
little
stronger
tricky.
than the glue.
I have enough
All right.
time watching myself while watching myself. I can't do
I
it
just-
3 times.
I just want to just see what it looks like, and then I'm gonna bail.
And Mark.
What?
Thank you,
Oh.
gentlemen.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, I'm just not even gonna mess with it. Screw it.
By the way, before we start the episode,
Mhm.
guys, I'd like to come in on the Tootsie Pop.
Oh yeah,
Today?
by all means.
I'm
go
out
ahead
of
on
Tootsie Pops this week. I forgot to
Oh,
go
you're
buy
kidding
Tootsie
Oh
me.
well,
That's
it's
okay,
good.
that's
Then
okay.
we got
I-
Chris
I'll-
picking up the slack. Nice.
I'll yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. I'll hand it to you, Chris. I'll hand it.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, and this is the joke. I'm going to set it up for you guys, just so you know what to expect. So, Rob, you're going to pass me a Tootsie Pop, and I don't have Tootsie Pops. I've got Dum Dums because I prefer those.
Oh,
Uh,
well
but I'm
played.
gonna but I'm gonna do the dude Dum Dum really haha very fun. Ooh, root
Okay.
beer.
Nice. Good. I like
all
that.
right, all
That'll
right.
work. That works.
YouTube.
And so this is how the sausage is made.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Right. It's funny. I used that in the book about 5 times. That was really my go analogy. Was how the sausage gets made.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
right.
kind of part of my life here. Stream
That's right.
URL. Okay. So I
Yeah.
think.
Anybody who's watching right now, pretend you didn't hear that, and
Right. Yeah.
at least give
Welcome.
us
Yeah.
give,
Welcome to
give us a
Behind the
sympathy
Curtain.
laugh
It's all
on that joke.
spoilers. Everything
Hey,
is fully scripted.
Is live chat on YouTube?
Yes, live chat should be on.
Is
Ooh.
I'm daring you. If you're watching right now, chime in. I'm just gonna dare you.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be
yeah.
cool.
I'm not
down
even
with that.
worried about. I'm just doing this as test of proof of concept, and I got pulled off task at about 11:30 to do something else. So I'm not even able to see the damn thing except for the preview. I don't even know where the actual. Can Chris? Can you or anybody who's seeing the live stream actually send me the URL to the live stream as you're seeing it? I only have the URL as it pertains to the.
Oh,
back
throw
end
it up in the
production.
chat.
Right
Yes,
here.
please.
Here it is.
Hold on. Let me get back to the chat. I'm far away from that. Chat. Thank you very much.
Shitty chat. Mark,
Let me
mark,
just
mark.
confirm that works for me.
Now I'm gonna go here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. I'm going to throw that one up into Facebook. Keep Hannah.
Okie dokie.
Whatever.
There's the live thing. Hey, everyone.
Yeah, at least that way I can look at the live feed. Oh, season 1. There we
Well,
go.
keep in mind, Ty, that's taxing your bandwidth.
Oh yeah, I got plenty of bandwidth though.
Did you restart the? There you go. I saw your comment, Mark.
Oh my God, the camera just looks terrible.
It is going to, because it's using our low quality feeds. That's okay. I don't mind that. Nobody's that's going to show up is going to expect 1080p, and if they are, they need to pay my bills.
Sure.
2 of us watching now. Where's the? I don't see a place where we can chime in.
Over to the right of the screen.
If you scroll down a little bit, it should say like top chat, and that's the. Then there's the chat box below that.
Yeah, this is what mine looks like. Right here.
I'm not
There.
seeing it.
Oops. Come on
Okay,
backwards.
that's
There we go.
posted out.
So there's you
to-
guys, and then over here on mine is where the chat window is. Usually if you scroll down, you'll hit the chat, but these seem to be showing up on the right-hand side of the feed. Oh, an
Oh, I
infinity
see.
cube. Look at
Okay,
that.
it's a new. It's a new.
Whoa.
Yep. Okay.
Dr. Tongue's 3D house of hats.
Well,
Well, thank you for laughing.
We need to be
Yeah.
investigating that one.
Oh, those people got me through graduate school. I owe them
Right
a
on.
huge debt of thanks.
Nice.
Mainly Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, by the way.
Right.
I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
And, of course,
Yeah, I
Dave
got it.
Thomas as the Beaver.
See, and that's just it. I was always more, back in the day, I was a little bit more a Second City kid than I was a Saturday Night Live kid.
Yeah.
Just because, they started off, both of them started off with more absurdity. Yeah, Second City kept it.
I liked
Yeah.
Second City, but we've actually got a good mix because I was all about Fridays.
Oh yeah, that's
Fridays was awesome.
That was
I don't
one
know what
step.
that
That
is.
was one step outside of Mark's generation. Yeah, we
Oh,
got
Fridays was
Fridays.
Xers
awesome.
Jeff
are all about
Valdez
the-
was funny until he wasn't.
Yeah,
And
there you
then
go.
Fridays was where Kaufman
Yeah.
got chased around with a bat, and it was
Yeah.
just.
Well, that
I mean, it
and
was
that's-
real and it was brutal.
That's where the
Yeah.
that's where the Kaufman's wrestling happened on
Yeah.
Friday.
Oh,
Remember the pro wrestling
Yeah.
thing and him
Yeah.
wrestling women?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fridays was like off the chain, kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
Fridays was
Who
edgy.
did that? Who was it?
Andy Kaufman.
Oh,
Oh,
I
wait,
but-
who did
remember-
Fridays?
Yeah.
That was a
It was
Don
it was an
Kirshner.
ensemble.
Yeah,
it
it was Don
but
Kirshner.
It was. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Don Kirshner, and
Yeah,
welcome
yeah.
to Rock Concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do my Don Kirshner impersonation in fucking forever. And my Don Kirshner impersonation is like my Harvey Firestein impersonation.
Oh, that's
only much like,
I
I just want to be loved. Is that so wrong?
So
I just
Oh,
want to
yeah,
be
that-
loved. Which, by the way, is exactly the imitation that I use when I do the voice of our pug. What?
Yes.
Why are you giving me this sloppy stuff? I wanted salmon. I just
Isn't
wanted
it
a nice
g-
poached salmon.
Did he
This
do
was
the
a very
voice
easy.
in? Did he do the voice in Men in Black for the pug?
No, who did that? It's right.
Now
No,
that I'm
somebody else.
thinking about
Somebody
it.
else Google that. I got to finish setting stuff up.
Yeah.
And by the way, before we
I'll look.
start, let's all take a moment of silence for Norm Macdonald.
Yes.
That was, boy, Norm in that incarnation of Saturday Night Live. He had this wonderful ability to be really edgy without coming off as being edgy at all.
Yeah, just that kind of straight smirking face.
Yeah.
And a lot of times his jokes, I mean, what I thought the brilliance of Norm Macdonald was that he would deliver a joke and you'd be like, wait, what? Oh,
I'm pretty sure that was a joke that just hit me. I'm
No,
not-
yeah, and he knew he was doing it because he would stop and he would wait for you to wait for it to land.
Well, and that's just it. In comedy circles, that's often referred to as a time bomb, where you know it's like a grenade. You throw it in, or throw it over your shoulder as you're leaving.
All right, so here I've been revisiting all my favorite. I was a Mad fan,
Right on.
and I was revisiting this morning my favorite Norm Macdonald jokes because there's been people put up all sorts of video feeds, right? So I'll just share the one that came back to me immediately was the ongoing bit about my theory. Germans love David Hasselhoff.
The Germans love
Right.
David
Yeah.
Hasselhoff.
I saw you float that out in your feed this
I
morning.
couldn't
Yeah.
stop
No.
it. But then the other
No.
one was there were two other ones. The first, and see if you remember these. But the one that killed me, the best headline ever was he said he said, "Yippee! Jerry Rubin died today." Oh wait, I'm sorry. Yippee! Jerry Rubin died.
Yeah.
That space in that inflection means the world.
And do you know the
Absolutely.
moth joke? Do you remember the moth joke?
Vaguely.
Oh
Is that
God.
the-
Okay, I will. It's a Shaggy Dog version, but I'll tell you the abbreviated one so you get the punchline.
Go.
Okay. Uh, it's late at night, and a podiatrist is locking up his office when, at the last minute, a moth comes in, and the podiatrist says, "Well, how can I help you?" And the moth says, "Well, you know, do you have time to see me today?" And the podiatrist says, "Yeah, sure." And he says, "What can I do for you?" And the moth says, "Well, doc, you know, I just realized the complete insignificance of my life. And, you know, it's short and I'm going to die soon. And I'm completely unhappy about that." And the podiatrist says, "Well, yeah, but how am I supposed to help you with this?" And the moth goes, "My wife and kids all hate me. My friends turned out to be posers. And I'm really thinking I'm just going to kill myself." And the podiatrist goes, "Well, this is all horrible, but how can I help you? Why did you come in here? You need a psychologist." And the moth goes, "Yeah, I know, but your light was on."
Ba-dum-bum. So my favorite one from Norm Macdonald was
Sorry, I blew that punchline, but go on.
he was
go on.
on he was on a yeah.
all right.
No, I got it. He was on a late night show, and I think it was Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
And he tells it's not necessarily the most correct joke, but
You're
it's
on
not
live stream, brother. Just
it's
so
not
you know.
completely blue, but the way that he told it, I am going to kind of clean it up a little bit.
So it's a little
Wow, okay.
magenta.
It's about two little people going to Vegas.
Okay.
Has everybody heard this one? Anybody heard this one? Oh my
remember.
There are so
God.
many jokes like that in my canon. I can't identify it right now. So go ahead.
So, and this is you gotta envision the incredible delivery
It's
of
deliberate.
Norm
Okay.
Norm Macdonald, and
Bring the
he's talking about there's these two short people. He doesn't call them short people, so you can
Yeah, fill in
gather
the
what
M
he's
word.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's these two short people in Vegas, and they're vacationing in Vegas. They're buddies, right?
Okay.
They're doing really well at the tables, and they're sitting around dinner, and they've been drinking a little bit or a lot. And one turns to the other and says, "Hey, let's get some ladies of the night." Only Norm doesn't use that word.
Thank you.
And so
I was getting lost there for a second. So.
yeah.
Stop. Go.
And then, so you know, the other short person agrees, and they have adjoining rooms, and so they drink a lot more, and they arrange for some escorts to join them in their room. And the first one, the lady of the night knocks on the door. He opens the door and invites her in, and they disrobe and they get into bed, and he's had too much to drink, and you know, things he just is not able to perform. And so, of course, he puts that on her, tells her to get out, calls her, you know, a bunch of dirty names and cusses her out. And so as he's laying there after she's left, he says, "Well, I wonder how my friend's doing." He goes and puts his ear to the door, and he hears this, uh, uh. And so that continues for a while. And so next morning, they're down there and, chasing the blues away from the hangover.
And doing the after action review.
Yeah, and as they're doing that, so the one short person turns to the other short person and says, "So, how'd you do?" And he said, my escort was just really not top notch. Again, Norm's using different language.
Yeah.
Was not top notch, and so I had to ask her to leave. And he says, "Oh, you couldn't perform." And the short person hangs their head. And after a few minutes, he raises his head. He goes, "But I put my ear to the door, and I heard you, and you were just knocking it out." And he's like, "Knocking it out? I couldn't even get on the bed."
All that. When I pull this up in post and I look at how long it took from the start of that joke to the end,
That was a long walk for a little payoff.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I now I'll counter my very favorite Norm Macdonald bit was from SNL News, and it was very short and very tight and had me dying laughing. And that he's running through the news bits and he says, "Okay, so this week on the Billboard chart, the #1 band is Better Than Ezra, and the #2 band is Ezra."
See, that's what
That still kills me.
I miss the days, and we're going to get moving here in a second.
That's
I miss
concise.
the days of a good, well thought out, self-contained joke. Just a joke. Like, the old joke about the snail. Look at that escargot. I mean, those were great. Anyways, all right, gentlemen, tell you what, we're under speed here. Hello to all our listening and viewing public. Let's do this, and I'll be perfectly happy if we come out with a 40-minute that I can cut to 30. I think that we should start aiming ourselves there, like we've all discussed.
Excellent.
So are we cutting Ronco today?
I think this has got enough meat on the bone for all of us to really have something to say about it. Let's do light and fluffy, and we'll lead with Ronco next time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that old, we're going to have a kind of a significant talk, and you don't want to come back in from a dog dying by introducing you to go with a Casey Kasem. Seminal moment in recording history. Anyway, so tell you what, let's do. Let's go at it thusly. Again, the big thing that I'm going to land on here is something that I think that we all agree about, and that is, being woke is being conscious of social problems and issue is in a very outwardly showy way. Essentially, now, no matter what it started out being, woke winds up equaling virtue signaling. And what I was sharing with Robert in text this morning was that being conscious of a social problem and trying to be better minus compassion plus a showy public stance equals woke. And as that article brings up, one of the really significant things is woke people aren't actually displaying any compassion and aren't really engaging in any kind of equanimity or they're are they woke people are doing it for themselves.
No
They're
takers?
not. Oh no, it's gonna be Chris. You missed that.
I was actually.
That's
yeah,
what Chris
I'll take
Chris
one.
does that.
I'll
Yeah,
take one.
yeah. Here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not actually recording the show yet.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Oh, we're not?
Yeah, let's
No, we're
Yeah,
not
no,
because
no.
I'm trying to give us some form of
some
skeleton here.
pre-production.
Oh, okay.
Roadmap.
Okay.
So I'm going to introduce this article. I mean, we'll have a little banter, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to introduce this article, and we're going to kind of dive in. And really what I want to get to towards the end of it is that we still want to get better. We still want to do better. We still want to try to improve ourselves day by day. But throwing it up there on Facebook every
Hi.
single time you do one good thing is not particularly helpful to anybody getting better at anything.
Oh, dog.
Hey, Boomer.
Dog.
Hi,
Hey,
Boomer.
bud.
Do you need to go outside?
Oh, buddy.
That looks like a dog that needs to go outside. Go take care of some business. We'll be here. Boomer is such a sweet dog.
Well, and I love that he hit the point because I was heading there as I was reading the article. I love that he hit the point of wokeness and particularly public look at me wokeness
Kinda all there is, huh?
is about elevating yourself over somebody else, and
Yeah.
so you've become what you're criticizing.
There were a few points in that article that really was like, oh, cool. So I've been on the right track for a while now, right? And nobody's been wanting to listen to me, and everybody's wanting to be dismissive of me because I've been challenging, in a very soft manner, been challenging some of these perspectives around woke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. So let's go ahead and talk about that. I'm trying to think who's got anything to talk about that they want to throw out there at the beginning. I think I'm going to use our Norm Macdonald stuff for a bonus reel.
Yeah,
So,
you bet. I'm ready. You know, when you come in and do how you're doing, I'm ready to hit the beat. No
Hey,
doubt.
Ty, dial yourself back 1.5 points in your gain.
Let's see. Okay. How are we doing here?
Much better. Give me a slightly louder voice from your face. Don't turn up now.
From my face?
Yes, exactly. That was good. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you to a happy medium where when you talk enthusiastically, we all don't wind up hurting inside.
The face makes noises.
Yes, it does. So, all right, we're good. Oh, by the way, and just to be formal about this, I don't know if I've missed telling anybody, but we've had over we've gotten over 1,000 views on our YouTube videos. Thank you, YouTube people. And we're still steaming forward. So let's get down to it, shall we? I tell you what, everybody else give me one more slate. I'll start, then Chris, then Ty, then Mark.
Okie doke.
Okay, go.
Robert, Mark?
And Mark.
I won't comment on how anemic that was. Should I send you a bell or a clapboard? There we go. Yeah, you're right, Chris. I suddenly have to do a little bit of repair on my slate here because it's coming apart. So,
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, it was fine 2 weeks
Don't
ago.
worry about it.
You know, that's what happens when you go to the dollar store.
Yeah, otherwise known as Amazon.
Right. All right, let's get at it, boys, here in 3, 2. Hello, and welcome back to Keep Your Hat on, the show where, hell, even we don't know where we're going to go. I'm Andrew Scott, along with my good friend, Chris Vicano, and my other good friend, Robert Anthony, and, of course, our third good friend, Dr. Mark Peterson, professor of philosophy in the University of Wisconsin. Welcome to season number 2, episode 1. How's everybody doing?
Doing puffed.
You are puffed?
I am puffed.
I want to hear about your puffness.
I don't know. I don't know whether I want to hear about this puffness.
Is that something you get a cream or ointment for? Is that?
Well, you're not too far off.
Oh,
actually.
that's right.
It turns
All
out
right.
NSAIDs.
Yeah, get me up to speed here, buddy.
Yeah, so much to my consternation on Sunday night after
I was going to wait till you
family
were done,
dinner,
but okay.
my jaw started aching,
Oh,
and
foot.
I reached up and I felt, and discovered that my lymph nodes were swelling up, and you know, it was
Dum
achy and
dum
sore,
dum.
and I just did nothing about it. I figured I'd call the doc the next day.
You said this was what, Sunday night? Is that?
Yeah, that was Sunday night. So Monday, it had swollen up, I mean, even more, and it was really painful. And
I didn't
was
go to
just
sleep with a goiter. What?
I was just like exhausted. Yeah, that's the thing. I
Yeah,
kept
that's not
thinking was
funny when you
goiter.
do this. You go,
Yeah,
And-
exactly. It does
and-
immediately make you worry.
and yet I'm not having any other symptoms. You know, no.
You didn't
sore
have any
throat,
like real
nothing.
pain or anything, no throat.
No, it was just sore
mean,
up here, a little pain.
Look, I'm
down
gonna
in
cop
my
to the
ear.
fact that like immediately we hear a swollen gland and everybody goes COVID. You know,
Yeah.
so
Well, except that clearly not
That's
COVID
where I
because
go.
sinuses were clear,
Okay.
nose was clear. About the only thing was I was really tired.
what about your
And
ear?
and
Your associated ear.
a little bit of ache in my ear, yeah, but
Okay.
I wasn't sure whether that was causative or symptomatic.
Right.
So, so just I mean, first I called the doc and scheduled an appointment, and then I started taking, ibuprofen and
Acetaminophen.
acetaminophen,
Mm.
and that actually it was amazing because by that night it had shrunk back down. It felt better. I was able to sleep. I went and saw the doc the next morning. He checked it out. The cool thing about that is he had this. I mean, it was awesome.
Apart
was,
from
I
like
was
going to the
so,
doctor, cool. I
And
mean, like
getting
we're
it
finding out
Exactly.
Yeah.
what's
I
the
was
problem
so
is.
stoked on this because he had this little handheld ultrasound that he was able to plug into his phone,
Oh,
and
toys.
and he ultrasounded my neck, and I'm like, all right,
No
that is
joke.
really cool technology. I want one of those.
Okay, here, and I thought that
Did
I
you
was
find
cool
out how
because I had
expensive it is?
I thought I was
I
cool
didn't.
because I had a fiber optic camera that I could stick into a hole in the wall and look at all the dirt in between my,
Wow.
studs,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Why?
I mean,
Why were
yeah,
you
I mean,
he
puffy?
beat me.
Why were
otherwise
you
it was a
puffy?
pointless trip to the doc because he was just like, yeah, it's probably a little viral infection. I'm surprised you don't have any other symptoms. You might get a sore throat in a couple days. Take NSAIDs. If it's not gone in 2 weeks, let's talk about antibiotics.
Did he
But
suggest that you have a
Man.
COVID test?
he didn't.
See, I was just kind of interested in that. You know, did his ultrasound make him go, nah, this ain't it?
Yeah, he looked at the ultrasound, saw that the two nodes were swollen up. They weren't very swollen. One was like 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, and the other was 1 by 1.5.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, yeah, this looks like a really a very typical sort of
You caught a thing.
lymph node. It's either bacteria or,
You got a
or
thing.
some mild
Well, I'm
virus.
glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that it's nothing to be concerned about. I am sad to hear that we have now, as we start season 2, devolved back into simply talking about our middle-aged maladies.
Yeah,
speak,
well,
speak for
that's
yourself,
news.
John.
the
Right.
thing that made the thing that made the whole trip worthwhile was the little handheld ultrasound.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
yeah, I
thing
look
was
at that as a
cool.
payoff.
Yeah,
too.
because the rest
Yeah.
of it just sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
he basically you went into the doctor for him to tell you that you had swollen lymph nodes.
Yeah, but I'll
Pretty
go in
much.
if my lymph nodes are swollen, man. That's a sign of 8 million different things, and I want to know which one it is.
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
like to
and-
take a moment as we're talking about this to
Yes.
to cheer the fact that the dude is in remission.
I heard that. Yeah, that
And with
Jeff
all
Bridges,
this celebrity bad news that we've
yeah,
had in
that
recent
Jeff Bridges
weeks,
announced that he and his cancer are in remission, and not only that,
well, he's not in
he-
remission, but his cancer is.
exactly right. No, that's good. No, he also said that he was at death's door with COVID while he was in
Yeah.
treatment for
Yeah.
his cancer. He said, I was getting myself ready to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, from everybody here at Keep Your Hat On to, somebody that we all hold dear, both as a character and as a very accomplished actor of our generation. Jeff, thanks so much for letting us all know about your fight, your struggle, and the fact that you're doing better, and we all continue to hope that you do so long into the future. I tell you what, everybody, we are on a new path and are trying to keep our show a little tighter, so we're going to bounce away to a break, but we're going to be right back in just a second to have a very interesting discussion that I think you're all going to want to be a part of. I'm Andrew Scott. That's Dr. Mark Peterson. That is Ty Robert Anthony. And that is Christopher Vicano with slightly less swollen lymph nodes. And this is Keep Your Hat on the Narrowband Broadcast Network. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Out.
Okay,
Yay,
great.
that was good and tight.
Coffee.
Yeah. So
Give
next
me just
next
a minute.
week I want to open
Hurry up.
with.
You need more coffee?
Oh, always.
Yeah. I
Anyways,
want to
go ahead,
open
Mark.
next week with a report about my athlete's foot. That we'll do that next week.
Oh, dude,
Okay.
I can jump in on you with I discovered the absolute best foot callus remover ever.
Yeah, I don't have athlete's foot. I'm cracking wise. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I'll take
I
it.
love it. I think
I'll
it's
take that lead in. Uh, yeah, it's one of those things where I am of the age now where I found the right tool to take off the callus in my foot that has been making walking even harder for me.
Yeah, man.
I'm this close to putting up an Amazon review saying this is the best $8 I've spent in 53 years.
There's that weird thing that does happen. There's like all of this stuff that's not supposed to break down. Actually, Chris, what you made me think of was uh, there are some things when you that like compel you to go in to see somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I remember I broke a filling, kind of dramatically, and it was like. I don't know. You guys are at that age, it's like I couldn't believe it. When I got into my 50s, I just started breaking fillings like crazy. And I asked the doc, I said, "What the fuck?" And he goes, "When did you have those put in?" I said, "When I was 12." He goes, "Yeah." So,
Right.
Wow, that
But
they
it's like-
lasted that long is
Yeah.
amazing.
but it's like
It's
you know,
not.
you put your-
It's not like It's not like when you were 12. We put in a cornerstone for a
Yeah.
building. This
Well,
thing's gonna fail.
my 12-year-old brain thought so. Well, anyway.
Yeah, but your 12-year-old brain didn't drink as much coffee as you did.
And you put your tongue on that stuff, and it's like this broken glass on the top of a
Dude,
of a fence.
I've had
right?
a broken tooth for 2 years. I'm just now covered by Heather's Dental, but middle of pandemic, really don't feel good about going and
Yeah.
having my teeth looked. I'm gonna
Having
wait,
somebody
but-
look in your mouth.
Here's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
like
go.
I've done that. I remember bunking up my elbow really bad when I was putting insulation in a couple of years ago. And there's these things that like were just like awful. And you go to the doctor, so like the dental thing. I call in. I said, "Listen, I just busted a tooth." "Oh, yeah. So did you want to come in?" It's like, yes. It's like, and I busted up
Oddly
this
enough,
elbow.
yeah.
When I went in, they just looked at it. They said, "Yeah, that looks really bad. We'll be able to see you on Tuesday. Will that be okay?" It's like, no. Or it's like I went.
Wait, aren't you seeing me right now?
Okay, that reminds me of a totally non-related, absolutely non-related.
Keep it tight. I
story.
want to get back to recording the story.
Okay.
It's very tight. When I was at ASU, I used to frequent a walk-up burger place called Rally's, and I loved their
Rally's,
banana
yeah.
shakes. And I went one day. I had
I
some
didn't
friends
pick
from
you
out
as
of
a
town.
banana shake guy.
Yeah,
Andy,
I
let
love
him.
banana shakes.
You're right.
Anyway, so I get my order, my rally burger, my fries, my banana shake, and I noticed there's some strawberry goop on the edge of the banana shake, and
Contaminated.
I hand it back to the kid, and I say, "Hey, there's some pink shit on my strawberry shake," and he looks at it
Banana.
and he goes, "Yeah, that's just some pink shit on your strawberry shake," and hands it back to me.
Okay, I got the topper here.
All right.
I blew out. I ended up having this really horrible back spasms. This is when I was in graduate school, and the beauty was that in Canada, of course, they will still make house calls and shit. So it's like the campus doctor comes by, and I said, "I don't know what the hell it is, man." I said, "It's just horrible. I can hardly move." He says, "What you got there is polyascending myalgia." And I said, "I got an owie going up my spine. Is that what you're telling me?" And he looked real sheepish. He went, "Yeah."
Yeah. Imagine how much medical billing money would be saved if we still did house calls.
It has to be significant, I should
Right?
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll bring that up in a different
Anyway,
episode.
go on.
Anyway,
Let's rock
So
this
yeah,
thing
let's
here.
get back in. Tell you what, Chris, you and Ty do the stunt,
Yep.
do the
Yep.
sticker stunt. Let me do the intro first, and then as I'm winding up with Peterson's name, one of you kind of just start doing the gag.
I'll kick it off.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
All right.
Yep.
So in 3, 2, 1. And hello, we're back with Keep Your Hat On. I'm Andrew Scott, along with my good friends Robert Anthony and Christopher Vicano, and Dr. Mark Peterson, professor of philosophy. What are you jokers doing?
I'm checking my lymph
Yeah.
nodes now.
Everybody's
Right?
checking their
Okay.
lymph nodes now. Hey, Ty. Speaking of lymph nodes, I need a sucker. Have you got an extra?
I do. As a
Okay,
matter of fact,
cool.
here you go.
A spoonful of medicine.
Oh, that's real funny, Ty. A dum dum? Really? You're trying to?
The
Ha, ha,
technology doesn't
very
always
fu-
work.
Ooh, root
Yeah,
beer.
we're still in.
That's
is
how
the
I do.
beta- This is the beta version
Yeah,
of
we're still
the
doing the
transportation
beta.
circuit. So
Yeah.
sorry about that, Chris. But at least you got root beer. I know you like root beer.
Root beer.
Well, listen, folks, we're going to start a little bit of a discussion here. Something that's been on all our minds to one degree or another has been, and I guess I'm struggling with a way to phrase this well that doesn't load the topic full of preconceptions. But, you know, we as a nation of people and around the world to one degree or another have been dealing with this idea of being woke, of of you know, doing what you can to realize the problems in our lives separately and collectively, and just trying to be a better person. And that's something that we've kind of wanted to offer in this podcast, is four guys who are just trying to figure out ways to be better human beings. But there does come a time where what you're doing and how you're doing it crosses over from trying to be a better person and actually winds up making the situation, both locally and globally, worse. So we had this topic brought up to my mind from a piece that I saw, and of course I'm going to edit this out because now I'm not finding it. Actually, I'll pull it up in my chat with Chris.
Yeah, it's in Psychology Today.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, here we
those
go.
psychologists.
So I'll come back in.
Gotta watch those guys.
So this came about, for me at least, from an article that was published June 30th of 2020, of last year, called The Promise and Problems of Being Woke. And this is in Psychology Today. We'll have the link down below to this original article. But this brings up some really interesting points. And now, the first thing is, what do we mean by being woke? Okay? And I'll read a little bit of this article. So many people, especially the youth, have a heightened awareness of our troubled past and, understandably, seek to correct our collective wrongs. This is where the term woke comes into play. It is defined as, quote, aware of and actively attentive to important facts and issues, especially issues of race and social justice, end quote. Now, to me, off the top, that sounds pretty reasonable. That kind of sounds like, that kind of sounds like what I have been, particularly over the last 20 or so years of my life, what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to take those institutional blinders off that were put on me as a member of this society for one reason or another. Some reasons not bad, but all the reasons are enough reason for me to not want them on anymore. But at the same time, we all know, and we have ample data points in each of our lives, somebody who is being so conscious of that and putting out into the world just how conscious they are of it, that it makes you go, really? Are you really? So I throw this out to you guys. Where does a person's behavior cross over from trying to be conscientious and be a better person to what we now see as the pejorative term woke, which is very showy, willing to cancel on people in a very outwardly visible fashion, and really just try to use their conscientiousness to shut discussion down?
Could I jump in here?
I invite
thought you were gonna.
Right?
Okay. I think you actually hit the magic term there a moment ago when you said cancel. I think where the line gets crossed is when, first of all, just a verbal expression of how woke you are. You have to sort of look at the intention behind that. And we see it a lot in social media. A lot of times it comes out more in the comments than in the posting, in my experience.
No, the comments are always the sandbox where people start kicking sand. That's where they feel it's safe to do so.
And so I think you've got to go to the intention of both the announcement and the cancellation of somebody else. You know, the tearing down someone else is why are you doing it? Are you doing it to truly work at the problem, or are you doing it to tear down someone else and elevate yourself above
Yeah.
those people and put
Yeah.
yourself in a position of power, which is not much better than what you are attempting to criticize, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Can
Yeah,
we back
Mark?
out and let's back out and get a little bit more of a perspective on this, right? Because the original idea in being woke meant being awakened. Typically, what this really meant was if you look like us, right? And we're sort of the poster children
We
for
sort of
white
are.
privilege.
Our,
let's
our
just
two
face
generations.
let's just
white
face up to
men,
that.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know I certainly am, by the way, based on how I was raised and the rest of it. And I had all the advantage. And so typically woke meant what happened when you took a bunch of white kids and you said, you know, you've actually got some privileges. You're privileged in ways that a lot of other people aren't, right? It's like, I don't get stopped for driving while black, for instance.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
can give you another weird one, which was that I remember when I turned 50, I hadn't been pulled over for a speeding ticket since I was in my 20s, when they would nail me in a heartbeat, right? Hippie kid. I had the same length
Yeah.
of hair, but at the time this was like, you know, threatening to the
It was the
social
shirt.
order.
Yeah, I bet you it was the shirt. Yeah.
But I got pulled over in my 50s, and this was the first time a cop ever called me sir and gave
Oh.
me a warning. And it was
Yowza.
like, being an older white guy is even better. All right. So this idea of waking kids up to their privilege, this is how this sort of starts, right? And being awake to that, which is really difficult if you grow up in, you know, I grew up in like suburban Chicago. I went to high school at Ferris Bueller's High School, essentially, right?
I remember you saying that.
That whole deal. Okay. And so you wake up to this and you go, oh, shoot, we should do something about this. Okay, this is like the good side of things, right? This is like being socially conscious as a person to injustice and all the rest of this stuff. It's awesome. Okay. But then two things happen, right? The first reaction comes from people who hate. So let's say you go, you know, we need to really do something more about civil rights, and we really need to do something more about women's rights, and we really need to do something more about minorities and ethnic minorities' rights in this country if we want to be happy Americans. There are people who will have a complete meltdown if you say that to them because they think you're attacking them, right?
Yeah.
And so then this is where you start to get woke as the pejorative, right? It's like, oh, you woke people think you're better than everybody else. You get this so far?
Yeah.
And this, by the way, I just got a hate letter, an actual written in cursive, because of a column I wrote about critical race theory about 5 months ago. Anyway, and this poor woman was just totally freaked out and angry at me for having pointed out that we should probably do something about privilege in our culture. Okay, so there's this reaction from the right wing, which has changed the meaning of the term to something pejorative and stupid. Now that's the first stage. But the second thing happens, and this goes back to what you guys were saying, right? If we go back to where we were here, there are all sorts of entitled, privileged little white kids who now need to virtue signal, right? This is the virtue signaling, how incredibly virtuous that they are, that they understand about this. And they've gone completely over the top, right? About what is and is not politically correct. And political correctness is the previous version. It's the 1.0 version of woke, right?
Yeah.
And so now we have trouble from both sides. This is what I'm saying. It's like there's the value, which is, do we want to be a decent place to live, right? And do we want to get over our hang-ups and stuff that we were just inherited or not? Well, some people hate the fact that you pointed this out, right? And so this idea of woke is like, you know, the right wing's latest chew toy.
So
And then you have all the people on the left who are not helping anything
No,
by
I
being
was just gonna go there.
holier than thou. And the reason I'm a little triggered by this conversation is I have all of these, the students in my classes are like working class blue collar farm kids, right? And if I were just to go into class and say, well, you know, you're a bunch of just privileged little white brats, right? If I said something crazy like this, I guarantee you that if you grew up in a trailer park and you're white, you don't feel privileged at all.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And so this is where part of the pushback, I think, is coming from on the term woke. But then you get all these kids at these elitist, you know, they're all at Harvard and Yale, aren't they? You know, smart aleck kids who was like, Well, you people just don't know anything about privilege. That thing.
It's interesting to me that one of the biggest points of rub is what you just suggested or pointed to, and one of the things that I'm trying to find a way to work with, and that is this idea that there are certain levels of acknowledgement when it comes to self-acknowledgement when it comes to privilege.
Isn't that
That
true?
that's just it. And by the way, I just have to correct you a tiny little bit, Mark. There are virtually no kids in your class who are farm kids anymore. Farms don't exist.
Handfuls. There's handfuls.
Yeah, but yeah, you're far enough north that there are still some.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this dynamic where the middle class doesn't feel privileged.
Right.
The class below them, the lower middle class, doesn't feel privileged.
Right.
The class below them arguably has a right to say, I'm not privileged.
Yeah.
You know, if you're living in a tent, but we as a society and a culture, we need to find a way to admit to ourselves that privilege doesn't equal financial stability. It doesn't equal, having money in the bank or a good job or who your father was. Privilege is something that, for the most part, as you discovered with being pulled over, it's got a tendency to be invisible even to the
Oh.
person for whom the privilege is bestowed upon.
That's the most important part, I think, Andy, is it's invisible to, I always like to say that the goldfish doesn't know it's in a bowl, right?
That's,
And we're all sort
that's
of,
a good
we're all
analogy.
goldfish swimming in water and we don't see the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So-
think,
right.
I think you're onto something good here, Andy. Yeah, when we attach it to economics, or when we look at it through an economics lens, it's really hard to see things like racial or gender privilege. However, isn't economics in itself sort of a continuum of privilege, where
Oh, dear.
I,
This is one of those pieces, Chris. I think this is such a great observation. We're allowed to talk about um, social justice when it comes to race, right? And gender, but we're still not allowed to talk about economic class.
No.
That is a no-no.
That you're not allowed to know what somebody else makes at the same company you do, working the same job you do.
And
That kind of thing.
yeah, and like the idea that even talking about the working class now is like somehow like horrible, right?
Yeah, like being working class is in and of itself a pejorative term.
well,
Right.
yeah, that not being wealthy
That's
in this
it.
country is some sort of moral failure.
It is.
And
That's right.
well, and that wealth is a how do I want to say it? Wealth.
Look, the wealth
potential-
the wealth is inherently, because of its accumulation through generations, in itself.
Yeah,
a
generational
privilege.
wealth versus earned wealth. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. And I'm going to use the term American dream here, but
Oh, yeah.
the classic American dream is I might not have money now, but nobody has the right to keep me from making as much of it as I possibly can in the future. And not only that, I am entitled to that potential. Entitled to a potential.
Yeah. So
That-
I always blame John Calvin for all of this, and this is a little bit naive, but it's like one
Your
of the founding.
reachbacks are always, I love them because that's
Yeah.
a long reach, but
Reachbacks.
it's still totally relevant.
It's like people think, what do you do for a living? And the answer is I crawl around in the basement crawl spaces of Western civilization with a flashlight looking for cracks. That's essentially my whole job. But America is founded by these Calvinists, right, in Massachusetts Bay Colony. And that predestination stuff kind of washes forward. This is a very kind of oversimplification, of course, but it's a nice way to start to think about it. In America, wealth becomes a sign of God's grace. And it's like, and by the way, if you were a pilgrim, after the first, generation or two, and you're living in Boston, man, you had every good reason to believe that you were chosen by God, right?
Yeah.
Because the Native American population had already been not decimated, obliterated, right, by this point, so that there's a lot of free land. It had never really been cultivated using Western or European technologies. Plenty of game. The fish in Cape Cod, the average size cod they were pulling out in those days was
That
100
is
pounds.
big as never as
The
big
size
as
of
a
the boat.
6-year-old. Yeah.
So if you were asking yourself, it's like, I wonder if, does God shed his grace on thee through material wealth? And the answer is, well, obviously. And so who are the worthy ones? Who are the elect, right? Well, it's us. And so what this is to sort of piggyback on what Chris was saying, which was that being poor, therefore, is a sign of God's displeasure. And it
Yeah.
has this moral character. It's not bad luck ever, which of course
No.
it is. Right?
You just gave me a great insight there, which I've been wrestling with for a long time. So thank you for turning the light bulb on, and that explains to me why, in the time we live in now, it is so easy for gospel of wealth
Oh,
Christian preachers
that's right.
are so
Super
able
popular.
to wrap themselves in the cloak of patriotism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
And why there is such a hand-in-hand relationship between uh, you know the strong, vociferous patriotism and the likes of Joel Osteen and his
Those
followers,
guys,
yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
Um,
It winds up being a feedback loop. You're right. The religion feeds into the overt patriotism, and the overt patriotism reaches back to loop around onto this hyper religious idea that these are destined by God,
By God.
available to those who believe.
Right, and
And
it's
you
a
know,
it's a
go ahead.
symptom. So this is why, for example, I mean, since 1950, when certain political parties started to go after FDR's New Deal, right? Movement conservatism. Their whole shtick has been the same, which is that the function of government is to take money away from poor people who are unworthy, right, and lazy, and I'm sorry. The function of government is to take money away from rich people who are hard workers and beloved by God, and give it to lazy, stupid, poor people who are hated by God, the symptom of which is that they actually are poor.
Yeah, they wound up being poor.
And so this is how you get this is a religious commitment, right?
Well,
and if they're
that-
hated by God, then it's okay for them to be hated by me.
Zoom.
Exactly right. And
That's
then
right.
that winds up blowing up into something that really is encapsulated in only 2 words, and that is manifest destiny.
Yeah, there's
This idea that we've been put here by God, okay? And so you go down all the bullet points and you see all the asterisks of assumption behind the thing. We've been put here by God on this fertile land to do with it as we please,
Whatever we
just
want.
so long as we are good stewards.
yeah.
And
And it worked great rolling out across the continent, right? So we slaughtered Native Americans everywhere we went, and anybody else who got in the way. But now that we've taken the whole country, now we've turned this back on ourselves socially, right? And so those poor people are keeping us from really having a decent country here.
Well, I tell you what, let's do. We're going to jump away to another break, and when we come back on the other side, Dr. Peterson, I have a poignant and pointed question to ask you about all this as well. But we're also going to hear from Ty, who has been very patient with us wordy bastards
Thank
talking
you, Ty.
about it. But we're going to be right back. This is the Narrowband Broadcast Network. This is Andrew Scott. That is Dr. Mark Peterson. That is Chris Vicano. And that is Robert Anthony. And I have no idea if I'm pointing in the right direction, but we don't know where we're going to go except to the other side of this break. This is Keep Your Hat On, and we'll be right back.
I got to let the dog in.
Yeah, don't forget about Boomer. Boomer
Yeah.
don't deserve that.
Yeah, Boomer doesn't do.
This is a good conversation. I am very pleased with this so far. Ty, one of the places that I really feel like you're going to be able to jump in on this is from your place of having done social work in the past and being in that realm, and talking about bringing compassion into your work life, and how our practice of being mindful of being compassionate informs informs this idea of, well, I want to lead by example, but am I leading by showing off a shirt with it on, or that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mark.
All right, somebody
Let's-
keep me from talking so much. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you talk some more when we come back.
Quit stop
here,
talking so much, Mark.
Right? Quit not stop talking so much.
Yeah, quit
When
not
we
stop
come-
talking.
When we come back, let's talk. You talk a little bit about Plato's ideas about what your responsibility is to your society.
And hey, you know what? We
We don't have time to do it. It's like
You can't give me a bite. I know it's its own show. I know it's its own book.
so I'm
We
just trying.
can't.
I'd have to. We don't have time. We don't have the time to do it to that extent. But we can ask questions like we could say something like, if we boiled it down simple, Plato would start off by asking, "What's the purpose of our society?"
Yeah.
And his answer was to make sure each person gets to maximize their potential as a human being.
That's where I want you to go. That's what I was asking for.
That was easier than I thought it was going to be. Okay.
Yeah.
But before
Son of a
we
bitch!
move
I thought
into-
this was going to be a lift.
Before we
Yeah,
move
Chris.
into Plato, Andy, can I close out the thought on Manifest
Yes.
Destiny?
Oh, please do that. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Hey,
I'll come back into you first. Yeah, Ty.
And let's wrap this up. I want to, as we're wrapping this up, I want to add 3 songs to the playlist.
Awesome.
Let's save it for the next time. I don't
Okay.
want it to break the vibe.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was just thinking at the end it might lighten some things up a
Go
little
out
bit.
on a lighter
I don't want to
note.
lighten it up. I want
Oh.
people to sit there and think about this.
Oh, the
Sometimes
producer
we're going
has
to be
opinions.
serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do that in Ronco. That's a perfect thing for next
Yeah,
time.
no, let's do
Yeah.
next time is all light songs, Ronco, and that.
Mm-hmm.
So hold it off. Again, I think that your input is going to be very valuable in working in the social services, and how you've tried to
Oh, yeah, do
lead
that.
by example with your life while not, again, having it on a T-shirt. Although this is the best T-shirt I've had.
This is mine.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not wearing. I took it off. I was running in it this morning. I have the most sacrilegious T-shirt I've ever seen in my life.
Hit me.
It's the one. It has a picture of Jesus on it, like this, and it says, "Me so holy, me love you long time."
I don't even know if we can put that in a bonus reel for all you people
Oh.
who might or might not be watching us on a live
Right.
stream.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
I'll wear it next time.
It ain't mine. I don't
I'm-
own that shirt.
I'm a fan. I want to know where to get one.
Yeah, one of my pagan buddies gave that to me for
There you go.
Christmas a few years ago. He goes,
All
"Oh,
right,
here you
I
need
tell you what,
this."
we're gonna come back in on Chris, and then I'm going to throw it to you, Robert, for a little bit. We'll have a little bit of discussion, and then I'm gonna ping over to Mark about.
Oh no, let's do
about
this
Plato.
way. Let's
You
do
wanna-
Chris. Let's do Chris, and then you're going to say, Mark? What would Plato say about this? And I'm just going to talk about each person getting to be what they, what their opportunities are, and that
All right.
ties into exactly what Ty's going to say. I'm guessing, right? That's how I saw it.
Yeah, pretty
find
much.
out.
I can. Yeah.
Okay, all
Exactly.
right.
There's only one way to find out. So, all right, 3, 2. And welcome back to our last segment of Keep Your Hat On. I'm Andrew Scott, along with my good friend Chris Vicano and Robert Anthony and Dr. Mark Peterson. And Chris, in our last segment, we were talking a little bit. I dropped the word bomb, manifest destiny, and you said that you had
you
something
were
to follow
talking
up
about
with that on.
Manifest Destiny, and you got me thinking. You were talking about how we reached the Pacific, and then Manifest Destiny we turned inward on ourselves,
Kind of.
and I started thinking about cleaning out the weak and the unlikables and the unfavored by God among us, which leads us right back to really this whole kind of where we started, where it's not just economic unlikables, it's the othering of
Yeah.
lots of different kinds of people.
Yeah.
Mere
And why
different.
that is so dangerous is because you are then marked for deletion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Oh, yeah.
that's kind of scary to me.
No, I would agree with you. As a disabled person, I've been marked for deletion a number of times, and
As
and,
have
and
I.
rather recently politically. So yeah, but Mark,
Yeah.
what would I'm just woodshedding here. What would Plato say about where we are with this right now.
I want to get bracelets that say, "What would Plato do?"
WWPD.
You know,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of, it's like
We could
we
sell
got a
those
lot
on the
of
merch
I was
store.
just gonna say, let's check
do
the
it.
merch shop at some
Let's do it.
point in the
We get
future.
it
I'll get to work on the artwork for
Yeah,
that.
before
Yeah.
those guys over at the Unemployed Philosophers Guild beat us to the punch on that.
Oh, exactly. Now, as of right now, when this thing goes live, that fucker is trademarked, son.
Okay, all right, it's
Yeah.
in the hopper. Okay, well, so one of the really handy things about Plato is like a Swiss Army knife of Plato you can use on things. Plato always would start off by asking a question like, "What's the purpose of this thing? What's its function?" And then once you know what that is, then you can figure out all the rest of it, right? And so for Plato, the question is, what's the function of a society? And he makes this really great observation. This drives my libertarian buddies completely mental. But he
All
goes,
three of them.
he says, of course, the reason why cities and nations come into existence is because nobody is self-sufficient.
Ah,
Oh boy, boom. Okay. Well, so the function of a society, and this is the short version of his Republic, which is, that
yeah.
I have
This
a
is a
copy
quick
here
short
somewhere.
version of an entire class.
Of 15 weeks of pain, yes. The short version is that the function of a society is to make it possible for people to be happy. And how do you do that, right? And here's Plato's answer to this question about how do you make someone happy. And the answer is you make it possible for them to be everything that they actually are, to fulfill their purpose as a human being. And if you make that possible, then people will be happy and society will be happy.
And I
And so
think
this is the reason why privilege matters, is becoming aware of it. It's like, if I'm not aware of my own privilege, I'm not aware of the way other people have been kept from having the same stuff I get, right? The same opportunities even. It's like, I don't see any reason why we have to, just like give people, money and stuff to equalize it. We need to give people the same opportunities
The
to,
same
and
space.
that's it, the same space to become who they really are, right?
And that does not equal this idea of level the playing field.
No.
That's something that drives me nuts.
No,
This
and there's
idea
no
that in
playing
order-
field here. It's not a
Right,
playing
yes,
field.
exactly. It's not a playing field.
It's
Yeah,
like the
and
So
marketplace.
that's a straw man from the beginning.
Yeah, it's not trite. So we're not leveling the playing field. The other thing that's involved here is people believe that when they have to give up, that they're going to have to give up some of their privileges. But of course, that's not the case at all.
No.
I just want everybody in this country to have the same privileges I have, right? How
Yeah,
about
it's,
that?
it's not pie, right?
It's
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It's not pie. So everybody has to, giving people the opportunity to become who they really are, right? Freed from freed from all sorts of constraints that aren't really necessary.
And I think one of the problems is where this points to, in a Platonic sense, is that's what Plato would say the function of a society is. What's not answered there, and actually, if you think about it, it's more answered in people like Aristotle and even in people like Camus, is this idea that how do you get the people in society to want the best for everyone else in
Yeah.
an equal fashion?
Yeah, there's the rub.
That really is where you trip over it, because
Yeah,
you can
that's
look at
the
what
rub.
Plato says and you go, well, yeah, duh. But
Well,
then
and-
it turns the light on people who, frankly, and I'm just going to say it, are just being selfish pricks.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
and they don't want that for everybody else, because then it makes them and their acquisition of either wealth or security or stability, it makes them feel less empowered and less accomplished because, well, I guess everybody has the ability to do this.
You mentioned Camus, and he went even farther with it, and he posed the really troubling question of what is it you're doing in your life? What is it you're doing with your life to justify the space and the resources that you consume? What are you doing to justify your existence? And that circles to, I think, a question that is so hard for people and makes it, when we're challenged to recognize our own privilege, we are then posed with the question of, where is my privilege? Where is that envelope encroaching on someone else's ability to live their best life?
And more
And I think
importantly,
that gets-
what's my responsibility to both myself and the world at large?
Yeah.
when it comes to this privilege.
Or do I even have
Right.
any responsibility?
And
Or
I-
do
I
yeah,
think-
exactly. That's where
Yeah.
Camus
I think
winds up
that,
going.
that takes us into the realm of mindfulness, which I would throw to Ty, and I'd really love to hear kind of your thoughts picking up here.
Yeah, now
this is what you
pe-
do, man.
yeah, for people, for our viewers and listeners, our good friend Robert has spent a lot of time in his working life, working with displaced and disadvantaged populations. And I imagine, Robert, there's been a lot of times where you, as a person with a level of visibility in those communities, really tries to lead. And I guess lead isn't. At least you try to present an appearance of somebody who has worked from a bad place up into a good place, or a better place at least. With your life, with your recovery. We're people who have addictive backgrounds and things like that, and using your own life as an example. How do you use your life as an example in that space without coming off as virtue signaling?
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Well, you share your life experience, right? You see somebody struggling that seems to be resonating with you, and you let them know, hey, I was there, and it's been a hard, long journey, but you can do it too if you want to, right?
How do you how do you not come off as being rah about that? And at the same time, how do you not make somebody how do you illustrate your awareness of their situation without putting the weight of that situation on them, saying, well, this is why you're having a problem?
They have to do it. The adage, you can lead a horse to water, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is a thing that I've heard from you guys today in this conversation, was just recognizing the privilege, just really seeing the privilege, nothing more, but just seeing your privilege, and then asking the question, what is my responsibility to do about this privilege, or to do with this privilege, right?
Yeah.
So with these people that are often houseless, to not be a cheerleader means, hey, how are you feeling about this? How is this working out for you? What do you see in your future? And how can I support you in getting there? Right? And then when they fall down and they say, they fall down in depression, or just, they get miserable because things aren't happening. Right? That's where you become a little bit of the cheerleader. Maybe I share my story. Maybe I point to the things that they've already done to better their life, even though it's not in their face. What they're working towards is around the corner. Now, that corner could be a long corner,
Right.
but it's there, right? And you just have to believe that it's there, and you have to keep doing it.
Well, and I think one of the important distinctions here is a willingness to share your story versus an insistence in making your story known outside of context. And that's one of the things that I think is happening with this idea, this backlash against woke culture, is being, having a self-realization about your behavior and about your privilege, versus suddenly having that dawning and putting it up on every single social media platform, and on top of all that, diving into discussions with no invitation, and in the comments, because life is in the comments now, making sure that not only do you get everybody else to recognize your realization about your privilege, but you actively try to shut down or cancel other people who have not yet had that realization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what you have here is, and first of all, I think that we're in the middle of the first act of this snapback.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I saw this snapback coming long before it even became snapback, right? So this movement was getting momentum, and that was great. But how do you keep people in the vehicle? And people weren't concerned about keeping people in the vehicle, right?
No,
Society
their arms
does,
and heads were outside the windows, no
and
matter
they
what
were
the sign
getting
said.
whiplash, right? they're getting whiplash, and then pretty soon they're wanting to step out of the car, and then, oh, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame for shame, right? That's not what you do. That's
No.
not how you do it. What we've not been doing, what this movement has not been doing, is asking the right questions.
Oh, yeah.
How do you come to the place of your perspective? And can you understand my perspective? And what you've got is you've got a bunch of people, these woke folks, a large number of them are becoming the very thing that they're railing against in a
Sounds
very,
right. Yeah.
very hypocrite way, or with a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah. Very hypocritical.
So Ty, is there
almost
a
sort of a
relation?
place of intellectual privilege.
What's that?
Is that sort of a place of intellectual privilege? Is
Well,
that-
everybody's pointing at everybody else, right?
right.
The thing is you don't stand up and say, I'm woke. You let somebody else say, hey, that dude's woke, man. He's really doing the work, right?
Ty, you guys have had a lot of practice with this stuff, but it's I have family members and stuff. I went to Al-Anon a bit because I had family members in AA, right? And they used to talk about 12th steppers,
Yeah.
which were people who would, the 12th step is go now and, help other people, with their addiction problems. And I'm wondering whether or not this has a kind of relationship to that, right? Because it's like, you admit your own privilege, and now you don't go through into the steps that are involved in actually coming to grips with that and
Exactly.
becoming a better person. You jump immediately to helping you focus this outward instead of actually doing the work yourself.
And I think that's exactly what's happening here with this cancellation, right? You did
Yeah.
this, and I think some of this cancellation actually stems from the Me Too movement, right? And justifiably within that Me Too movement, hey, we need to be believed, and these people need to be held accountable. And somehow we've picked that mantle up from that movement and said, you know what?
Well,
You
we've
need to be
taken it out. We've taken it out of its original context, as is typically the way when shit starts going sideways with something.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now you just need to not be part of this conversation. I had
I think you're right. The way cancellation is wielded now, it's like a deputized mob.
Yeah.
Uh,
and what it is people are not focusing inward. So these people that are considered woke are not looking inward to see where their flaws are, what they're doing, and they're looking at you can't do that, but they're not looking inside to say, where can I better improve this situation?
Well, and I think you just hit on it, Ty. And first off, before I move forward, full disclosure, we all support the Me Too movement. We think that it was very important progress when it comes to the treatment of women and also men who have been sexually assaulted, which those numbers are far greater than anybody understands, and I speak from experience. But having said that, I think really the crux of the matter here with regard to the whole woke culture and cancel culture is that, as is so often the case, we've allowed a personal experience, a personally transformative process to be turned into something that you must stick up on your window and broadcast to the outside world in order for it to be considered transformative and valid.
Well, and if you're questioning any of this stuff, right, and you're not hanging that flag, you're at risk of being canceled, right? I had an incident where, when the battle cry was defund the police, I was not against defunding the police. Okay, let's look at that. What's the plan? What is there's a small community over there in the East Coast that did just that. How did they do that, and what did they do, and how can we improve on that? Again, asking the better questions. How can we improve on that? Why we bring it up to scale? And is that possible? Right?
Yeah.
And
well,
instead,
not only that, there's no definition. I think the first thing that you led with was the important part. There was no definition of what defunding the police means. It was thrown out there as a catchphrase into the public sphere, and everybody was allowed to interpret it in their own way. And I'm not taking a stand for or against what that statement meant. I'm just going back to the point that If you don't have firm context, then it's gonna turn into a Donnybrook.
And it
Yeah, but
definitely
this is
was this battle cry, let's kill the monster from the villagers. But
Yeah.
the minute that I started pushing back and going, what are you going to replace this with? You can't do this without having a plan. The people that were within that circle all started to turn on me.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
How dare I not be? And we saw it play out in live television
Yeah.
with that mayor saying, I'm not prepared to defund the police and getting publicly shamed at a gathering on live TV. And this man, only days earlier, was crying about the injustice that was done to Mr. Floyd. He was deeply remorseful and deeply wanted to do something. It's just that he wasn't really to just jump out and become part of the mob mentality yet.
Well, and so often is the case, it seems like we simply turn, and I don't have a good explanation for why, and I don't have a good mechanism for fixing it. It just seems that in our modern life, especially with the advent of the internet, the go to thing is to shut down discussion, to shut down a conversation. And not only that, to prevent it from ever raising its unfriendly face again. And that
So
really bothers me.
And I'm wondering
Yeah,
about this, and we've seen this a lot. And Mark, I don't know whether you can speak to this or not, but a number of colleges have trigger rooms, right? And I am hearing a lot about how
You triggered
uh,
him, Ty.
the kids
You,
the kids in college these days don't want to be challenged, and if they're challenged in their belief system, they feel that that's being triggered. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what we're up against here too.
Yeah, there's so many ideas constellated around this. I can my so far what I've seen is that first of all, full disclosure, I do not include trigger warnings in my syllabuses. I include trigger guarantees in mine.
Fair enough.
I
how
tell
am
them
I
at the begin-
unsurprised by that?
I tell them at the beginning of the semester that my job is to make them as uncomfortable and irritable as possible all semester long. So
There you
whatever their
go.
beliefs are, they will have to shore them up, right? To think clearly about what they actually think about things. That's my entire job. Not telling them what to think, but getting them to start thinking about what they think about. So I have not seen any of this in, of course, my students, but of course, my students are typically at the bottom of the economic college ladder, right? As a rule. Now, yeah, right, man. This has actually been one of the great joys of working here. But if you go to Harvard, what I found is that the sort of students who need these trigger warnings all go to economically elite and privileged institutions. There was some extravagance over at Madison, and it's like, this is part of the movement, it's like, I see this stuff as like pendulum swinging back and forth. We
Right.
need to bring out this stuff in the open. So there's a sense in which some of these excesses, what we might characterize as excesses, are not really bad so long as we realize that that we needed to say this stuff out loud first. Okay, so one of the students over in Madison, I think she was head of the Black Student Union over there, said that they needed to take down the statue of Abraham Lincoln as well because while he freed the slaves, he wasn't really pro-black.
Yeah.
And you could argue that it's like, we need to think about this a little bit more, right? But it's like, I still want to say that we need to have people say that stuff out loud just to get the conversation moving, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we can come back from it. Now,
Absolutely.
so I've seen most of this trigger warning stuff at fairly elitist institutions. And when I read the latest New York Times, supposedly the lefty paper on this, when they
Right.
talk about, the horrors of what's going on in colleges, it's always Harvard, Yale, Bryn Mawr, one of those
Berkeley.
places. And this is like,
Yeah.
it's not happening in the country, rolling kettle moraine of Washington County. But the other side to this too, and I wondered about this. Two thoughts crashed into my head. I've been reading a bunch of Jung. I've been going back through Jung again. And there's a constant theme in Jungian psychology, right, which you guys, you Zen boys, know this really well, which is that people will do anything to avoid confronting their true selves.
Hell yeah.
And it's like, if this includes your privilege, right, you're immediately going to feel attacked and you're going to dodge it at any way possible. Okay. Um, the other one on here, and I think I've mentioned this before over the last season, was Theodor Adorno, Frankfurt School of Philosophy,
Yeah,
wrote
yeah.
this hilarious book that alienated every college student in France in the 60s called The Jargon of Authenticity. And what he says
Which,
in
by
there
the
is
way,
like,
we're going to put that down as a link in the bottom because I read it back in the day, and I
Yeah.
remember that it really kind of blew my doors off.
it's actually not, considering that it's the Frankfurt School, it's actually kind of accessible. Anyway,
It's not a hard
anyway,
read.
But the idea was that if you have, if you learn all the sexy vocabulary, right, it makes
Yeah.
you look. This is the virtue signaling dimension here. If you
Yeah.
learn all of the right way to say stuff, it makes you look like you're authentic without ever having had the experience, right? And so, like, I was really lucky that I got to live in South Alabama. And so I was in much closer proximity to African Americans, and this is no way suggesting I have any understanding of what that could possibly be like, but I got to see what it was like, right, from the outside. And you see that long enough, and you know that as a white boy, you're never going to have to put up with any of this. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Now, I didn't go all off on this because we all still need to live together, and we all come up short, right? None of us are perfect, and we have to figure out how to manage all that. But there are people, in the '60s, this was called radical chic, right?
Yeah.
This is where you had all these rich New Yorkers from Fifth Avenue going all beatnik, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm one of the people.
Yeah.
And
volunteering at a soup kitchen.
Yeah, shut
Yeah.
up, right?
Exactly.
So this is part of the extravagance. That's what I keep thinking of it. It's the extravagance of these movements. Is like they've appropriated the jargon. It's very satisfying to make yourself feel woke, right? But it's like being woke is like now you have to do something. You can't just parade with it.
Other than point at other people.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly right. So those are the two thoughts that screamed into my head when you were talking. Yeah.
No, and thank you for them. And really, where this comes back to me, as we wrap this discussion up, is, Ty and I are formally we're Buddhist. We've taken vows, and we try to live our lives. We promise to live our lives by a set of precepts, and they're not commandments; they're precepts.
More of a guideline.
Yeah, it is kind of a guideline, and we don't go to hell if we don't do them. But really, one of the things that in Buddhism, in any flavor of Buddhism, we hear the term Buddha, and Buddha, in and of itself, the word, the name means awakened.
Yeah, nice.
And where this comes back to me is Buddha, when he had his awakening, and I'm going to try not to be all woo-woo spiritual on you here. I'm going to try to keep this very practical. When Buddha had his awakening, he didn't suddenly jump up and go, I got to tell everybody else.
Oh, no.
He didn't suddenly go out and say, I've got it. What he did was he sat with it, and he let it inform his life. And if you ever go through any of the Buddhist canons, it took a while before Buddha even admitted that it happened.
Yeah.
And as we button this all up, that actually takes me to an analogy that more people are probably going to be familiar with. I remember I grew up Catholic. I grew up a good Catholic boy.
I'm sorry.
Right. Well, it's okay.
I
It was
got
pretty.
better.
It was
It,
pretty.
ex-
yeah,
it
but I'm much
explains
better
a
now.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, and Chris went to Catholic school, and that's something that we share
I
here.
was brought up Catholic too.
We
and
often
then
get
later
told.
educated by Jesuits.
Same here. We often get told, as part of our parochial education, that there's a parable, I guess, about two men in church
two?
in the two men in church in the pews, and it was time for the collection plate to go around, and one man of modest means who really had been struggling to be acknowledged in his society as being looked at. He was a merchant, and he wanted to be looked at as being very successful, and that he had money to spare, and his life was being lived in a place of wealth, even though probably not. But he very carefully took out a $20 bill and just fill in whatever big number bill in whatever country you're in, and he raised his hand very high and made sure that it was visible going into the collection plate. And this man of great privilege, who was a few people down from him, very carefully had taken a check for $1,000 that he had written before service and folded it into his hand, and very quickly placed his hand and the check over the plate, let the check go, and drew it back. No show, no ostentatious flourish. And that really is where this whole thing kind of comes back to me. Both men were trying to be better men. One man of limited means gave what he could, but made sure that everybody saw how much of it was there. And the other man, who was truly privileged and was aware of that privilege, made sure that he gave as much as possible, but that he did not make anybody else feel bad by showing how much he was giving. And that's really what woke winds up coming back to me. Nobody here, nobody of us four people, or most likely any of you out there listening or watching, don't have as a goal in your life to try to be better every day. But there's a being better every day for the betterment of yourself and your society. And then there's a selfish version that makes sure everybody knows that you're better. How better that winds up being, I'm not entirely sure.
So I think another way to putting that is because I do have the goal of being better, a little bit better every day, and that goal is somewhat selfish, somewhat internal, but that goal ends up it's that oxygen mask thing, right?
Yeah, put your own on first, man.
If I'm better, then I make the people around me and the world around me, the immediate world around me, better. And as that ripples out, then maybe I can make the world a better place.
So you don't get on the plane and immediately turn around up the concourse and go, well, I'm going to be the one that puts my mask on first.
Of course not. Of course not. No, that's that being a little bit better every day. And it just might be really just a little bit better. I might wake up 5 minutes earlier. I don't know, whatever it is.
Whatever it takes.
Or to push the plane analogy, you're the one who reaches up to help somebody who's having a hard time getting their bag into the bin.
Oh,
It's just a
absolutely.
simple gesture like that.
Absolutely. Just so that I can get you out of my way.
Well, that ain't going to be me. That ain't going to be me because I struggle with, lifting a container of cat litter these days.
Yeah.
But anybody else got anybody else got anything else they want to say here about this?
Yeah, that's what it all comes back to for me. Is,
I'm going to slap you, Chris.
You just said,
Or was that your phone?
no,
Not
that
me.
wasn't my phone. That was
Okay.
the door.
Oh.
Got a little bit of helpless. I can't control that.
No
My
problem.
phone
I'm
is
sorry.
turned
Go
off.
ahead, Chris.
No, where it comes back to for me, I mentioned the Jesuits earlier, and the motto at my high school. Now we were an all boys high school, so
Privilege.
But no, the motto was "Men for Others," and that was really drummed into me, and I really took that to heart. And what this all ultimately comes down to for me, and why I'm sort of frustrated by what we've been talking about this whole time, this behavior that we've been talking about, is this could all be easily ameliorated if we got into the frame of a simple question that I personally try to live by, and I feel like it's a really good place to start, and that is, you start with the very simple question of, how can I help?
That's honestly, that just goes back to Baba Ram Dass and the thing that he told everybody. His life changed entirely and at the quantum level when he adopted the one question that he always asks, and that is, how can I help? And with that, we are wrapping up. This has been Keep Your Hat On, and this has been a very interesting discussion. We'd love your comments or opinions either on our Facebook page or on social media or on our live stream or on our YouTube videos. Please give us a like, click, and subscribe, but also please comment. We'd love to interface with you. And again, we are going to be back in 2 weeks. We took a little bit of time off, but we're all back with season number dose. And gosh, people, have yourselves a lovely 2 weeks. This has been Keep Your Hat On, the show where hell even we don't know where we're going to go. I have been Andrew Scott. That has been Robert Anthony. That has been Christopher Vicano. And that, of course, has been and continues to be Dr. Mark Peterson. And remember, everybody, keep your hat on. We may end up miles from here. Take care. Visit our merch shop, kyhopodcast.com.
Smash the like
shop.
button.
Smash that like button, and we'll see you all again really soon. Everybody, take care, and bye-bye. Hi, Fred.
What?
Don't
What?
worry, we're done with Dad now. Hi, Fredo. Oh, my sweet fuzzy kitty.
What? What is it?
You wanted us to clap out.
Yeah,
as well.
let's do a quick slate on the backside. Chris, go
Oh,
first.
crap.
Mark.
Well, I already cut the tape, so
Oh, that's good. Don't worry about it. I'll be able to handle it.
yeah.
I think that's going to turn out to be a very interesting episode, guys. And I'm grateful that you allowed me to take us in this direction because I know when I speak for me and Ty, we've been itching about this for like the last while. And I really wanted to talk about it.
Well,
So-
and you know that a certain subset of this has been very much on my mind
Yeah.
lately, and I took your advice, and I'm not sure if you've had a chance to talk to Devin about it yet, but I reached out to some friends. Dr. Mark,
Get him
I
up to
can see
speed
your
quick before
quizzical
we
look. The question that's been on my mind is, I see cis people everywhere, sort of announcing their pronouns. In email signatures and I've been wondering, is it truly helpful or is it just performative? And
Yeah, that's the
I
question.
reached out to a couple people and they say, no, it actually really is helpful. It normalizes. You are stating clearly that you're creating safe space.
Yeah, it does do that. Yeah.
And you're demonstrating acknowledgement. You're basically saying, yes, I see you.
Yeah, this is actually a thing, and it can just be a normal thing. Let's just turn it into a normal thing.
I will tell you, it's like, because I had to do this pretty quick, right? Because I had, I was
Yeah.
actually so. Who is the faculty sponsor for the Gay Straight Alliance? Who is it? It's me. So it's like, duh. And so when this started about 5 or 6 years ago for us, and I thought, well, this isn't a big deal, no problem. And I have had a number of trans students over the years, and all sorts of people. The beautiful thing about the kids these days is that they're not pinning down their gender preferences right away. And
No.
it is such a fucking relief to watch this because it's
Right.
like, I remember we were having a conversation. I was like, well, somebody asked one of the women in class, is like, so have you decided you're a lesbian? She goes, I'm still thinking about it. It was like, how awesome is that?
So have you decided if you're going to have the cheeseburger or are you going to
It's
get
like-
a salad?
It's
you
like,
know?
I like, she said this out loud. It was like, I like having sex with girls and boys. And it was like, I'm kind of envious, actually, I have to say. But anyway, what I found is I had students who had told me that they needed to stop being referred to as she, for instance, right? I had this one student. And I thought, oh, no problem. And I had originally thought we were making way too much about this whole pronoun thing. But what I found was that my habits were so deeply ingrained that I would automatically
Right.
call her ma'am.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was like I would immediately apologize. And then and they got mad at me at first. And then I said, listen, this is your future. You're the pioneers, and you're going to have to help people who've been habituated. This isn't like I had a choice. I wasn't thinking, what do I need to call her or them in a way that would make her or them most irritable? Do you know what and I didn't do that.
No.
I just answered based on 50 or 60 years worth of ingrained habit,
Conditioning
right?
and
So
programming.
once we had that conversation, which is like, you know, I think you guys are awesome, and you need to help me become better by helping me get new habits. And when we had that conversation, they suddenly saw the world in a different way too, which is what they needed to do, right?
Well, and
I got to
one of
say,
the
I had a
things-
similar conversation like that. And what I kind of prefaced it with was not only do I have this history of just having this binary,
Yeah.
right? This binary choice, but my mind in the matter of a millisecond is trying to distinguish between that binary. So help me out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Give
so
me
I'm
a
gonna
little bit of latitude.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you both the pass out of this. And I
Yeah.
do this having been trained by my kid who is a they, them.
Yeah.
The real issue here is when you apologize. Don't apologize. Simply correct yourself and move on. Because a lot of people feel that when you apologize, it is now their responsibility to make you feel better about your error.
Oh yeah,
forgive
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
The better thing to do is just correct yourself and, say, oh, yes, ma'am, excuse me. And then just say, sir, or whatever
Oh,
else.
I stopped doing
And-
that right away, Andy. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the,
Well, and this
you
is
can't do
this
that.
is
You
one of
just
the
have to. You just have to say,
one-
I meant.
Right.
right.
Because then it's not, they don't feel like it's their responsibility to make you feel better about your error.
Right.
Well, the thing
And
that I used was
easy.
I've gotten away from. I rarely use the word apologize anymore, and I definitely don't use the word I'm sorry except for extreme
that's good.
instances.
Yeah, when it's appropriate.
What I
and a lot of times
use-
it's not.
What I use instead is the word forgive. So, hey, hi, sir, forgive me, ma'am, or they,
That's
or
not too
whatever. I'm letting myself recognize my error, but not.
But I'm
giving-
going to correct you there from a place of the trans community. If you say forgive me, that is a demand of someone else.
Yeah, you're still putting it on the other person.
You're still putting it on them. Don't do that. Simply say, oh, thank you, sir. Excuse me. Just the minimal. Because one of the things that the LGBTQ community is reacting to is constantly having to help out cis people with their cisness.
Well, and if you reduce the misstep from a transgression to a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean,
sense.
what
That
I'll
makes sense.
typically do is I'll say, "Oh, my bad," and then
Yeah,
Yes.
and one of the
and you
things
make
that
it
they're
more
trying
matter
to
of
do,
fact. you
yeah,
take a
they're
lot of the
trying to get
pressure
it
off of
down
it.
to a matter of fact thing. Thanks for that term, Chris, because that's
Yeah.
really where this is about. Is
Yeah.
let's stop making it such a big thing. Stop putting it on me to forgive you. Stop putting it on me. Just correct and move on, because that to them really reads as true acceptance.
Are we still doing this on YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're still live. Yep.
And I hope that this has helped inform some people's approach. Anyways,
Yeah,
gentlemen, I
it's
think that we're good.
good
I think this
ideas.
was great. I'm going to stop the recording here. I hope that this